What is up, guys? Boxy here. Today we're going to be doing the raid guide for the Forest Gemini on Epic difficulty. In comparison to the Elite version, this version has a lot more damage. The mechanics are basically the same, but because they do so much more, you need to make sure you're there for every share and things like that. The biggest burden here is going to be on the tanks, as they have to keep swapping for the debuff, but they also have to keep the bosses separated enough that damage on them doesn't get reduced. As you're watching this spawn mechanic, notice that I try to get as far away as possible. It does a lot more damage, so it can very easily kill your raid. Make sure you're as far away as possible, use your ultimate, and use a heal potion to keep yourself alive in case the healers are too far from you. Just like in Elite, the boss is going to transition once he hits 75% health. We're going to keep on pushing him down to 35 to get him out of this phase. Now right here coming up, as soon as you see the boss fly off, get ready to stack, look around for the circle, and stack in. We need as many people as possible inside there, as it does a lot of damage. After that, we'll be getting meteors. Generally, try to keep those meteors around that center circle. Remember, one of them will explode, so stay away from them until that explosion happens so that you don't die from the explosion. Shortly after the meteor, you have to be aware of the bear boss, as he's going to be doing a meteor blast, which destroys the meteors if you don't interrupt it, so be ready to interrupt. These charge lines here, they only happen during transitions where the boss transforms. As you just saw, overlapping mechanics can be pretty frustrating. Having to get behind the meteor at the same time as the boss does that cleave that can hit you can be frustrating. Back up slightly, but you have to stay relatively behind the meteor. Another common one is getting the bomb at the same time as you get the swoop AoE from the boss, which would normally require a stack. You're just going to have to eat it and die and get rezzed. Another common one is getting a tornado cutting off your direction when you're dropping the bombs. So you have to constantly be aware of these double mechanics possibly happening to you. As you see here, now that we've brought the first boss down below 30%, we're going to switch over and start focusing on the bear boss until we get him down to about the same level, and then we're going to start bringing them down evenly to avoid the invincibility mechanic. Now, for healer advice here, I would say you want to save your AoE cooldowns for the share damage phase, and you want to save your single target heals for when you see the bombs being dropped, because it's going to be difficult to keep that person alive while also staying in range of the raid. As far as ultimates for DPS, you're going to want to take a movement ability, a healing ability, and if you're helping with interrupts, you take the interrupt. If not, you take a second movement ability. As for tanks, you want your taunt, your mitigation, and your leap so that you can make those transfers as smooth as possible when you're swapping bosses. And heals, obviously, res, movement, and damage mitigation. Now that we've matched their HP, we're going to start switching back and forth. As a DPS, your job here is going to be to switch back and forth as necessary to keep them within about 2% of each other so that you don't have to worry about that invincibility mechanic screwing over your progress. Now, as I mentioned with those beast charges earlier, right here you're going to position yourself on the edges, and when you see the horizontal line, kind of aim yourself so you're right in the quadrant between all four of them. You also don't want to move in until you see the charge walk by you. Even though the blue on the floor has already passed, it still deals damage when the charge passes through, so you have to keep an eye on that. And again, here with the share damage, you want to get as many people in there as you can. If you're doing this on day one, when it's doing all that extra damage as well, you really need absolutely everyone to get in there. Now, if you've been following what I said about keeping them within a percentage or two of each other, this end phase runs real smooth with all the execute damage that you get. Now, as you might have noticed, this is a soft enraged boss. Even though you pass the berserk time, you do get a little bit of time to finish off the boss before it wipes you out. And that is the Forest Gemini raid on Epic difficulty. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions.